Hello, this is Kurt Bonk coming to you from lovely Bloomington, Indiana. My kitchen, by the way. And we have a great second part of this class today because we have guests who are on my research team. They are my colleagues, my good friends, who are some of the most productive people that I know. And they're really good role models for all of you that you can maybe learn something from them that can help shape your career and maybe some of the choices. They might influence anyhow some of the choices. And after this session, they will be there for you via email anytime you want for the rest of your career. So number one, that's the most important reason to bring people in is to network. The content that we discussed in the hour is just an add-on, right? It's what happens after this time. People you can walk to and tap on their shoulder and say, I saw you in 511, August 21st, 2021, 8/21, 2021, whatever, they'll be with you. And I promise you that they will respond via email because they always do. They're two of the most committed and passionate people about the field. And they're still wrestling with personal questions about what they want to do with their future, each of them, as well as I am wrestling with questions about what I want to do with my future. So if you come up to them with questions about what you should be doing there in your future, they'll understand and they'll have empathy with you because we all struggle and wrestle with issues of what to do next. What to approach, what topics might become prominent in the future or important personally to you in the future. And Dr. Ann was here maybe 15 or so years ago when she was finishing up in the doctoral program in IST, Yunjo. And Yunjo's background is coming from Korea, I think at Ewha Women's University, which is one of the top places to be as a female in the field of educational technology in Korea. It's a great place. If you ever had a chance to visit, I've spoken there 4 or 5 times. What a lovely campus. And she was told to come to Indiana University, which a lot of the people who go to Ewha are told to go to Indiana University because the faculty members got their degrees at Indiana University. If you go to Hanyang University, couple of miles away from Ewha, about 4 or 5, 6 miles away, they are all told to go to Florida State because their professors all went to Florida State, okay? And so she's gone to 2 of the best universities in the world, Indiana University and Ewha Women's University, and has started her career at Texarkana and then University of West Georgia, and is now the department chair of the University of North Texas. And among her interests are gaming and the gamification of learning. I've been on 2 papers with her related to gaming and the gamification of education. One called Finding a Special Place, Designing Digital Game-Based Learning Environments that came out in Tech Trends in 2009. And Special Place stands for 12 principles of gaming that we've created an acronym around. And then the second article that we've published together just came out. It came out online last year and in print this year. It's exploring instructors' perspectives, practices, and perceived supports and barriers related to the gamification of Moocs, massive open online classes. So we talked to instructors about how to gamify them. And both Dr. Lin and Dr. Ann are on that paper with me and Dr. Mena Ju, my former TA in this class. So the 4 of us work together. So Dr. Ann has been working in the corporate training field somewhat here at Option 6 in Bloomington, and I think back in Korea for a bit. I don't have her CV in front of me. And Dr. Lin got her degrees at Teachers College at Columbia in New York City and has lived in the big city. Is now living in a little city, although I think she lives close to Dallas. Dr. Lin, as shown there, she has a book that's come out recently on mind, brain, and technology. And so she's very interested in issues of epistemology in the mind. Her research has looked at blended worlds, augmented augmented reality, online learning, collaborative learning, flexible learning, seamless learning. Pretty much she's interested in everything, as you can, I think they both are pretty much interested in everything. Basically, the foundations that underpin her work come from the field of learning sciences, come from the field of instructional technology, and come from educational neuroscience. So, and I've also included her teaching philosophy in what I sent to you. I won't read that, but maybe we'll get into teaching philosophies. That would be kind of interesting to do. So maybe we should just start jumping right into this a little bit. I think that they both are interested in creating more learner-centered and active and engaging curriculum, especially online curriculum, to help learners learn. So if it's okay, and Dr. Ann, are you, there you are. You're up there in the purple, good. Didn't see you at first. So we can go in a number of different directions, but I think it's important for them to understand where you're coming from. And maybe if you could give us a brief minute or two overview of why you selected the field of educational technology, why you even got into it. What were your hopes and dreams? Was someone a role model for you telling you to get into it? What were your goals?
Okay, I can start. By the way, it's very nice to see you all. Thank you for inviting me this morning. I got to know about education and technology through my mom's friend, actually, in Korea. At the time when I was in high school, there are not many universities that had education technology program. Only about 2 or 3 universities, including Ewha Women's University, had the program. And thanks to my mom's friend, I got to know the field, and I started my journey in education technology, and I'm thankful about that all the time.
Stop for a second, Yunjo. I want anyone to raise your hands if your mother influenced you getting into this field. Anyone raise your hands? Or anyone your father influenced you? Anybody? Nobody. Okay, so you're unique, Yunjo. I've met your mother. I'm sure she's a great person.
He's very nice to my mother. Thank you for it.
You can keep going. So what else?
That's it. That's how I got into the field. And
so Lin, you want to jump in?
Sure. I wish I were more focused, had a more linear process. I'm all over the place. I'm still all over the place. I don't know if anyone can relate. I started as in linguistics and actually also English literature. When I was little, everyone thought I would be, I came from China back 20 years ago. Everyone thought, even when I was little, I loved writing. So everyone thought I was going to be a Chinese writer. So I always just loved writing. And then I got, I read when I was in high school, I read all Shakespeare in Chinese, of course, and I loved it. So that's how I got into English literature, English linguistics. I read as much as I could. Actually, a joke would be when I was in college, a friend of mine, and her father was a professor in English literature, and they just had tons of books at home. She was not interested in reading those books. So I found out, I went to her house, I read all their books, and her father always just, blamed her for not being as driven as I was. But I was just interested in literature. So I went to literature, I went to linguistics, and then I wanted to write, and then I went to journalism. So before I came to this country, I majored in literature, linguistics, and went to the PhD in journalism. And I came over here at Columbia, was going to continue with journalism. I was interested in freedom of speech. And then I came over here. For whatever the reason, I was thinking, well, I was not really, freedom of speech was too much. I got very lost about the concept of freedom of speech. And then I started to think more about my career. And at the time, I was taking some courses in educational theory and practice. And then I had some sort of difficulty trying to see how I could connect the media, the education, the teaching. And that was in 1997, 1998. And then the internet just started with, all the websites and everything. And because I was interested in media, I was very much interested in Marshall McLuhan. Media is the message, and global village, and all that. So I started creating websites for my department. And at the time, the colleges actually didn't have websites. And I created websites for them, and they were interested. And then that got me interested in, I guess, the use of technologies and media in learning. So to make it shorter, although I already talked quite long, so I really just got to be interested in using media and technologies for teaching and learning purposes. So I'm still wondering. And but that's, I guess, how I got to be where I am.
So how many people are from China? Raise your hands. One, just me? No, I'm not from China. So what part of China were you from? North, south, east, west? Lin?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Also, quite different places. I was, I guess I relate most with Shanghai. That's where I spent most of my time. But I actually was born in the northwest part of China, very remote. Yeah.
And how did you get found? No. So you were at Teachers College creating websites, or in China creating websites?
Well, before I came to this, actually, I never touched the computer. I didn't even use.
You never touched a computer in China until you got to this country. Okay.
Right, 1997. That's the first time I started using computer.
Okay, so you were influenced after you arrived, whereas Yunjo was influenced before she arrived. Just quickly, don't want to go long on this, but Yunjo, would there be anything you would do differently? Would there be areas of the field that you would study that you feel like you don't know enough about? Or in fact, are there classes these people should be taking that, that are open gaps to you and are very important? You're muted, by the way.
I'm sorry. I would still choose the same career, but maybe I could do some things differently. Maybe I will let Lin go first. I will think about it.
Lin, is there anything you would do differently? Anything you'd recommend?
I think one thing currently I struggle with is the research methodologies. I wish when I was a student, I would take more research methodology courses rather than sort of quickly jumping into one. Because my background was in literature, linguistics, I was very much in humanities. So after I came to Columbia, most of my professors were very much in the epistemology of qualitative camp. They were very much against quantitative research. So at the time, I immediately, because of my background, I immediately just, felt I belonged to this camp, qualitative research camp. And so I did a lot of work with qualitative. But later, especially now in my career, I always feel that I wish I actually took more quantitative courses, research courses when I was a student, especially with, nowadays with the big data, learning analytics. And if I had more background, more training in quantitative research, I would have more confidence to I guess, to do more cross disciplinary work, interdisciplinary work. I am learning a lot about learning analytics and try to catch up. But I think rather than, I think it's good to be more open-minded and try to see, what the other people are doing, what other methodologies people are using to do the research.
Yeah,
They are all good tools.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think one thing I was shortchanged on was research methodology. And in particular, I'll agree with you in that jobs in the field today, a lot have learning analytics in the title, the knowledge of learning analytics. However, I think that most of the students here are certificate or master's students and not doctoral students. So that's going to change. So raise your hand if you're a doctoral student. 1, 2, okay, a couple, three of you. Okay. Raise your hands if you're a certificate in the certificate program. 1 of you, okay. And raise your hands if you're in no program at all. No, a master's students. 1, 2, 3, 4. Most are masters, but we have a couple of doctoral students as well. So this is important in terms of research methodology. How I've solved not having a lot of quantitative background is working with people who do. and I've got someone, Youngju knows Min Youngdu, who was a student here when you were here, Youngju, and we're publishing a lot of things because she knows quantitative. Youngju, did you think of something now in the interim?
Yeah, first I agree with Lin, taking more research classes, it'll be very helpful for your future careers. And another thing, I wish I could have a little more computer science background for my research projects. I tried to collaborate with computer science faculty, and I once hired some computer science students, but it's quite difficult to communicate the ideas with those people sometimes, without the knowledge of computer science and programming, it was kind of hard to advise those students, and they always had some errors and bugs every week, and I couldn't do anything. So the project was it was very, very time consuming, but it was not very successful because I didn't have any background in computer science for my gamification project. So whenever I wanted to develop some new learning system, that was the huge barrier. So it's not necessary to have computer science expertise or background, but it could be very helpful for some kinds of research projects if you are interested in developing some systems.
Youngju, I think James would like to greet you. I think, James, are you in Japan right now?
No, I'm in Pohang, South Korea.
You're in South Korea. Okay, so why don't you greet her in Korean?
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
네. 반갑습니다.
반갑습니다.
Yeah.
What city are you in?
Pohang, South Korea.
Okay.
It's in the northeast coast, about 50 miles north of Busan.
Oh, okay, right.
You teach there?
Yeah, I'm teaching at the Joint Forces Military University, the Joint Military Forces University. And that's up in Icheon, but we're doing online classes now.
Wow. It's been a while for me to go to Korea. I miss, Korea.
It's been rainy for the last several days. I think
really?
the monsoon season has come a little bit late this year, so
Very
it's
hot
just
and
been
humid,
raining.
right?
Yeah, it has been, but not too bad this year. It's been kind of mild, actually.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Nice to meet you.
I miss it too. This pandemic, my son is Korean, and most of my friends are Korean, or a lot of my friends are Korean. The rest are Taiwanese and Chinese. So, yeah, I think I have more friends in China, Taiwan, and Korea than I do in the U.S. So, and Thailand. So I miss going to those places too, seriously. Looking ahead as well as looking back, are there topics or areas emerging within the past decade, or you see emerging soon, that they might want to, you know, focus on? You know, what do you see as an area that's an emerging or that has emerged during the time in which you've been in the field? Would you like to talk about, you know, the topic areas? Yeah, Youngju?
One of the areas, I think these days many people are interested in AI, artificial intelligence, and I think we are hiring a new faculty in that area this semester. And you know, merging AI and education is one of the things. And as someone mentioned earlier, learning analytics is a big thing too.
Yeah, I would agree. We've got a grant here. A couple faculty got a major grant, huge monies for AI. There's also a conference in Bloomington. Do any of you live near Bloomington? There's a conference, you know, coming up in early September, late August, early September in the School of Informatics. It's a free conference, so you can sign up to go. And I'm going to go on Tuesday. So if anyone goes to it and want to meet up there, if anyone's in Bloomington area, it's August 30th through September 3rd, I believe, both at IUPUI and in Bloomington. So if you're in the Indianapolis area, I think you could go to it too. I'm not positive about that, but they're going to have some pretty well-known people come in during the week. So you're right, Joe. I think AI. I was studying AI before graduate school, so long decades ago. And I was going to major in it. And then I looked, and most of the people in AI at Wisconsin took a decade to graduate. So I decided not to do it and go into ed psych. Lin, would you like to comment on emerging, what things have emerged or what is about to emerge?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The, you know, human and computer interaction, the AI, you know, human, we are going to have a book that's coming out hopefully by the end of the year. It's called Human Intelligence and Artificial Intelligence, the bridging human intelligence and artificial intelligence. I think, you know, it's moving so fast. It's really just not about artificial intelligence. It is really how we work with artificial intelligence, right? What's going to happen with artificial intelligence for human beings, and all the issues related to that. And I think learning analytics is part of that.
Who's we? You said we have a book. What do you mean we?
So the book, Mike Spector and we started this book 2 years ago well, actually about 3 years already, when we put together a workshop, a 2.5-day workshop. And so because of, you know, different issues, we've moved very slow with the book. But finally, we brought in a faculty member from computer science, Mark Albert, and he helped us. Originally, we were more focusing on learning sciences, but Mark is from computer science, and he brought in the computer science aspect of, you know, machine learning, algorithm, and natural language processing, and they really made the book more sort of having more of the substance in artificial intelligence. So the three of us, and we edited the book. What's unique about the book, actually, it was not the original idea, but because of Mark's contribution, he was able to bring in some undergraduate students at UNT. And actually, these undergraduate students are high school students. They are from Texas Academy of Math and Science, and they are junior and senior high school students. And we brought them in to be authors with graduate students and faculty. So most of the chapters are co-authored by, you know, like a high school student, a graduate student, a faculty together.
Wow.
So
who's the publisher?
It's Springer.
Springer. So if you go to your syllabus, page 13, you will see Mike Spector listed this week You can actually read from Mike Spector, one of the most famous people in the field who works with Dr. Ann and Dr. Lin at the University of North Texas. Theoretical Foundations is his article, and it's from a Handbook of Research on Educational Communications and Technology, 2008. So again, part of bringing people in every week is to make these connections where they're going to bring up names, and the names that they bring up are people who are listed in your articles to read from. So I would put that one now higher on the list. So Dr. Lin has a book, but Dr. Ann also has a book that's recently come out, as I mentioned, with Dr. Charlie Regaluth, who was her advisor. And you have a copy to share with us. Oh, hold that again. Now you can't, okay, hold it still. We can't see it. Okay. You'll have to read it for us because the camera is coming in a little bit fuzzy on my end. Unmute your mic and read the title.
The title of the book is Merging the Instructional Design Process with Learning-Centered Theory, the Holistic 4D Model. We created a new ID model called the Holistic 4D Model.
Holistic 4D model?
Yeah, 4D model.
And what are the 4Ds?
Okay, what was the 4D?
She's got to look it up. She just wrote the book, but she's got to look it up, of course.
It's been a while. I cannot.
Is this your first book?
Yeah, it's my first book. The 4D is define, design, develop, and deploy. But actually, the focus of the model is on actually the 3 different levels: top level, mid level, low level. You know, it different from the traditional fragmented approach to instructional design. This model takes the holistic approach to instructional design. So it starts with very fuzzy ideas about the design called top level, and then moves to the details progressively, so into mid level and low level. So that's the big difference.
So who's the publisher?
Rightly.
That's the same as my publisher. So there's a tradition in this class. I'm assuming this is the first class that you're presenting this book to. Is that right? Is the first time?
I presented this book to the ACT, but in terms of class, yeah, this is first class.
There's a tradition in this class in that every author who comes into this class who is the first time that they've presented to the class then gets all the free copies that you were sent. You send all you were sent a couple, about 10 or 20, you have to send them to each, so they'll put their address in the chat window, and then you'll take care of getting us all free copies. Signed copies, by the way. We don't want anything unsigned and dated. So, you know, I know Routledge gives you tons of free, no.
Actually, not that many.
You've got to negotiate that. Okay, so here's the deal. If you do a book, anytime in your careers, everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. They'll dictate the terms of agreement, but you can, I've had an attorney work and they'll change all the royalty. They can change, you can change the royalties that they'll give you, actually. You can change all sorts of things. So you think this is a contract, you can't change it. You can change it. So part of having these weekly sessions, you'll get some pearls of wisdom along the way. We could probably, all 3 of us could give you like 50 tips on how to write a book or how not to write a book. Dr. Ann Yunjo, you worked with Dr. Regaluth on this. Do you want to briefly tell people about Dr. Regaluth? Because they're going to read from him or about him during the semester at some point.
Dr. Regaluth, oh yeah, he's retired, right? So he was my advisor at IU. And he's very famous, you know, internationally renowned scholar. He is very well known for his instructional theory. Now, are you familiar with the green books? His green books? He has multiple green books, and many people know him about elaboration theory and, you know, some theories and instructional design theories and such things. And later work focuses on systemic change, educational reform, and he's really passionate. When he talked about educational systemic change, his eyes were filled of tears, you know. He's really passionate about changing the educational systems. And
So if you go to week 3, page 15 of the syllabus, article 4, that's by Dr. Regaluth, is on elaboration theory. So if you want to learn more about elaboration theory, and he's known for what's called Green Book 1, Green Book 2, Green Book 3, maybe in Green Book 4.
yeah,
The first one I had in graduate school. He's actually got a yellow book too, but this green
really.
book, yeah, he does. And we had to get both as new graduate students. So the green books are instructional design books. And some people ferret this to its nub or its core. The core of this field is instructional design. Okay. So by Dr. Regaluth, he edited these books, a series of books on instructional design with people around the world. So he became known kind of as the father in some ways of the field of instructional design, not necessarily the father of it, because there's other people. Robert Gagne will read from as well. We'll read from Michael Spector. We'll read from all sorts of folks. And so Walter Dick and other folks, Mike Melinda. So, but he's known for these series of Green Book 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as you look at the books over time, they become more open-ended and flexible. Not at the first one is very behaviorally based. And so we'll get into behavioral theory in a few weeks, but the first one is really more prescription. And the field of IST is known as a very prescriptive field. Over time, it's loosened up a bit and become more flexible and open. I'm one who believes in choice and options, as you see in the syllabus. The field of IST has got its underbelly, it's grounded in behavioral theory and in cognitive theory. And so it's very an objective-based learning. So you have objectives, goals and objectives, and you meet those objectives. So you're moving people along a path in short steps towards that end state. What happened in the 80s and 90s, they opened it up with problem-based learning and more flexible learning. So Dr. Lin, would you like to talk about your perception of that, you know, from a prescriptive approach to more open-ended, or was it never that way at Teachers College Columbia? It was always more open-ended in nature.
Yeah, I think when I was at Teachers College, it was definitely very much open-ended, and I loved it. So, you know, I guess it was never, I never had doubts that learning was not constructivist in nature. But then after I become a faculty member, I start, well, I think in essence, it is very much learner-centered constructivist. In reality, in the process, sometimes, you know, that was not necessarily shown in action. And I think there's a lot of cognitive sort of approach in that process. Yeah.
So Dr. Ann, would you like to comment on that? Your background is in IST, at IU. You're now at North Texas. You've seen you've seen 4 different, 5 counting EWA. Were all of those more prescriptive in nature or more open-ended in nature? Or is it changing over time?
I think all 5 departments or programs were very different in nature. Some focus on K-12 technology integration. IST and our current LT department are very interdisciplinary. It involves all different areas. And of course, it changes over time a lot. For example, when I was at IHWA, I remember we created a book, paper-based books, using lots of materials, but we don't do it anymore. We use computers, right? At the time, we used some computers for some graphic design and such things, but not much. So with the advances in technology and theories, you know, departments change, the curriculum changes, and each department and each program has a very different focus and different, you know, expertise, I think.
Do we have any questions from the audience? I have more on my own here, and I see a couple of things in here. Sarah is asking, are they supposed to be read in a certain order? What was that question, Sarah? Is that?
Oh, I was just asking about the green books.
Oh, are they supposed to be read in a certain order?
Or are they revisions, or are they just kind of stand independently?
Dr. Ann, what would you say?
Actually, I don't remember the details. I have the book right now.
Go grab it. Show us what, go grab it. I'll talk while you're looking for the book. So my opinion is, don't read them. Scan a couple of chapters that you want, pick and choose. Don't read them cover to cover. My first one that I read, the chapter that interests me was on inquiry-based learning by Alan Collins. To me, that was the only chapter that was important. The rest of the chapters were very prescriptive. That was the only one that was more open-ended. Over time, the green books have become more open. And even it has one, I think, on religion and instructional design. So it's much more interesting now than the first edition. So I would skim the first one and look at I would read more carefully the later ones. Yunjo?
Yeah, I just have the green book too, and I definitely we should start with chapter 1 because it talks about what is the instructional design theory and how is it changing. So definitely, I advise you to start with chapter 1, but after that, you can just choose chapters that are related to your interests. For example, in the class R626, I think I worked on, everybody works on different topic, right? Your own topic. So choose chapters that is most relevant to your topic, chosen topic, and then focus on those chapters. For example, if you're interested in problem-based learning, if you're designing problem-based learning theory, something like that, then you can maybe read learning by doing, collaborative problem solving, those chapters.
So she's repeating what I said. Don't read the whole book, just read what you're interested in. And don't have to read them in a particular order.
Yeah, it's
you said you have volume 2?
I have I think all volumes, but I just can, maybe some of them in my office.
Hold up volume 2.
This is volume 2.
Thank you. So she's the one who stole I lost volume 2 somewhere, and I think you stole it when you were a student. So now I'm going to get that back. Let's go on here. Lin, is there any particular article, if you were to recommend an article of yours that you've written that you would recommend everyone read, what article do you take pride in, or what book, or whatever, what do you want to lead us to?
I don't think any of my article is worth reading. I see. I'm so, I guess, non-typical of instructional technology path, right? Just my background is different, and Chuck Riglu's the work I read some, but I never really, I think, so I was not really on this, particular path. So I think one of the work that I did when I was actually still a student, it was completely, I had nothing to do with anything. It was my own struggle. I came to this country, and with very different way of thinking. I think, I was basically, I was one of my professors when I was here, things that he said that really still sort of makes me think all the time. He said, you were very courageous to come to this country, all by yourself to study. However, you're so timid, you're so quiet, you're so afraid to speak in a class. And I'm still the case. Every time I need to speak, even, coming to this class, I feel so nervous right before I logged in. I was like, oh my gosh, what can I say? What can I share? Anyone would be interested in what I say. So this fear of speaking I still have that. But then I know at the same time, I am courageous in many other ways. So I wrote this paper. I will be happy to share. It will be embarrassing for me, but I did write this paper just to talk about being a scholarship student. You know, I was always a scholarship student. I was always a good student, but at the same time, I was always scared. So just that journey of when I can become a confident scholar, when will I ever grow up, right? To say that this is me and this is what I do, this is what I'm good at. I still don't have that confidence. And so that's one of the work I think. Another work is more related to my research, which is it's only one page. I'll be happy to share, and it actually got me a lot of attention because it's published at the National. It's Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. You know, it's one of the top journals in the US. And it was a commentary piece. It was about media multitasking, which is a research area I've done. I've sort of followed for years, and my work related to the bridge between human intelligence and artificial intelligence is has a lot related to that work. You know, media multitasking, to what extent media multitasking, meaning trying to do several things at the same time, right? To what extent we as humans are capable of doing several things at the same time, and to what extent we can take advantage of technologies to do several things at the same time, or to increase our capacity. Thank you.
So I'm sure this audience has read a lot in the news about media multitasking over the past decades and the controversy that exists. Does anyone want to ask Dr. Lin a question about media multitasking? Maybe she would have the answer to your question. Silent. She's smiling. Melissa, you're smiling, so I'll let you ask. She's bowing out. So I'll ask. So is what we're reading in the literature true? Do people can people put it another way? When you multitask, does it hinder or hamper your learning? Or are there successful cases where people can multitask, and what would that look like?
You know, as a scholar, we always say it's not yes or no. It's more complex. In general, actually, if there's, I don't think we have time. In general, we all multitask, right? You know, a lot of us may think that we cannot get anything done if we don't multitask. A lot of times in small situations, when you don't, it doesn't require higher order thinking. It's possible you can, multitask. And also in situations when you are expert in something, you probably can do the secondary task without much difficulty. For example, listen to music while driving, right? If you're an expert driver, that's not a problem at all. Or even carry a conversation, which I don't recommend. So it has a lot to do with cognitive overload, right? So it depends on the tasks involved. It depends on your expertise. It depends on the gender actually hasn't been shown to really be there. Although a lot of women, I always want to tell men that I'm better multitasker than them, but research hasn't really proven that. A lot of there are like Mark Pensky talk about digital natives, like digital natives are better multitaskers. that's not proven either by research. So it depends. That's my answer.
And the news wants to have an answer, you see, and academics use the, it depends, you know, it's this or that, but the media hypes up the one right answer or what it is. And we get that mistaken impression of what, you know, they'll take the one study that found this and they'll publish it, and yet there might be 99 other studies that found something else. So it's a real problem. The dissemination of results from our field to the greater population, as with any field, is problematic. But for instance, take the pandemic. You know, there's many governors of different states are, you know, saying we're going to move back to face because online doesn't work. You know, blah blah blah. But they're not, you know, understanding the history, the thousands of studies in the field that have the qualified response, you know, not a yes, no kind of response. But anyways, meta-analysis of the field of online learning show that blended is best, shows that fully online is second best, and shows face-to-face is the worst, actually, despite what the governors and what others are telling us. But you can't just jump people to emergency remote teaching and expect it to be that, of high quality when people haven't had more than 3 days to prepare it. So, you know, there's that issue, but that's another story. Dr. Ann, I've been dancing around here so that you'd have a chance to think about that. If people were to read one thing from you, what would you recommend that they read and why? What are you most proud of?
I'm not sure, but I'm not saying I'm proud of this article, but one of the most memorable projects I worked on was the study on computer game design by middle school students. I really enjoyed the project because, you know, working with the kids was just so fun, and you know, I learned a lot from them. You know, observing them design their own games, it was just fantastic. And whenever I visit the classroom for observation, you know, they were eager to show me their games, their progress they made, and it was so much fun. And I just, yeah, I'd like to do more studies on those areas. You know,
so why did you get into the field of gamification? What led you to be interested in gamification?
You know, for many years I tried to develop digital game-based learning system on various topics, but the grant proposals were not successful, and sometimes I got some internal and small money, and I mentioned that I hired some computer science students for those projects, but it was not very successful because all the bugs and errors. So developing the educational games, it takes forever without money and without good collaborators. So I kind of moved my research focus toward more gamification, partially due to the frustration with the, you know, development of games. But as I learn more about gamification, it's so interesting. It's about, I mean, it's not just within the gamification area. There's so much areas to think about. You know, currently I focus on my current research project focus on emotions in gamified learning context, and with Kurt and Lin, we worked on gamification in Moocs. So you can go so many different areas with the gamification idea. So yeah.
So last year we had Jake Infield on from George Mason, and it was in Cal State Northridge, and he says there's a big difference between game-based learning and gamification of learning, and his area is game-based learning. Mm-hmm. So I was confused by that, and so do you want to talk about what the distinction is between game-based learning and the gamification of learning?
Typically, game-based learning involves using the actual game, right? You play game to learn, but gamification is not about developing the full-fledged games. You just use the game elements or game design techniques in non-game context like education, healthcare, marketing, and so many different areas, sports and health, business, everywhere. It's been used in everywhere.
Anyone have a question for either Dr. Lin or Dr. Ann? Claudio's coming to us from Texas, nearby where both of you are. He is originally from Peru, where I was a year and a half ago. So Claudio, you're in Austin?
I am in Dallas actually, but
Dallas, so
right
you're near
now,
them. Okay.
yes, but actually right now today I'm in Guadalajara. I just traveled yesterday for some work things that I have to do here in Guadalajara. But I have a question for Dr. Ann, and it's very interesting for me what you were saying about the problems that you face with people from computer science. I have a background in computer science, so I'm very interested about if those problems were related to design or more to implementation or just communication with them, because that's something that I see a lot happening with the communication between computer science and people that are in the education field.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes, the question is about if the problems that you face were related to more about design or implementation or just communication with them in terms of them probably not knowing what to do or how to translate what you wanted in terms of the software or the systems, because that's something that is very complicated. I have seen that a lot of people from computer science, sometimes they don't understand what customers want to really have as a final product.
Yeah, when I tried to design some gamified platform for my course, I had 2 computer science students, and I specified how it should be developed. But they had their own way to design things, so they kept doing it their way, but not considering the they use different terms, and I couldn't understand their terms, and they couldn't understand my terms. It was, and especially when they talked about the bugs and errors in the system, I had no idea. And yeah, and actually they were just master's students, and they were busy with their own studies. So maybe in the future, when I have a larger grant, I might hire professional computer science people, programmers, with more time, with more background in design.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kirsten, I apologize to you. You're waiting in the waiting room. I hope you were waiting for an hour. I just didn't see you there.
No problem. That's okay. I was reading while I was waiting.
You were waiting for an hour?
Yeah, that's okay though.
Okay. I'm gonna have to talk to my TAs about being here as to assist me. I just didn't see it. Anyone else have a question? Melissa looks like she would like to jump in here. Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah, I was just interested in getting access to the articles that both of you mentioned. Dr. Lin, I'm really interested in your article on the confidence process, as well as your media multitasking article, and Dr. An, your article that you just mentioned that we were talking about on gamification. Are they linked somewhere on the web that you could put in the chat, or?
I can send to Dr. Bonk.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I will do that too.
Yeah, why don't you both send to me, and
Thank
then I'll
you.
jump in and I'll send the special place article as well that Youngju and I did.
Thank you.
And so, yeah. Any other questions? We started a little bit late, so we have another, if it's okay, we have another 5 or 6 minutes with them. We started at 5 after or 6 after the hour. So we didn't get to so far here. You're at UNT. Can you describe for us the program at University of North Texas and what makes it distinct? What makes it really good? And how is it similar to IU? I mean, as people, all these people compared programs that they could, major in. I'd like to give you a chance to talk about UNT for a second in the program there. I know you're not in the School of Education. That's distinct, right? You're in informatics or something. So go ahead. Dr. Lin, you've been there longer, so you want to describe the program first, and then we'll let the department chair go.
The department chair should go. Well, okay. So we have 2 PhD programs. One is the distributed program, and another is the residential program. Currently, I'll ask Dr. An, department chair, to say the current state. I think the distributed definitely has been more popular, increasing with popularity. And it's also because we have a very good model, the mentorship model that's set up for the program to be, I think, more successful. The residential students, they are more similar to the other PhD programs. Sometimes they may feel that they don't get as much support. Again, I'll ask Dr. Ann to talk about that. We also, what else? I'll refer to Dr. Ann since she's the department chair.
Okay, as Dr. Lin mentioned, we have 2 different programs. Actually, we have bachelor's program, master's program, and PhD programs. And bachelor's program focuses on STEM careers, and master's degree offers lots of different tracks, including instructional design and workforce leadership, AI, and so forth. If you go to our website, you will see all the tracks. And our PhD program, as Dr. Lin mentioned, we have 2 different formats, distributed and residential. For the distributed program, we use the cohort system. Also, another unique thing is we have lots of AGF, which is associate graduate faculty members. So each PhD student has 1 major professor and 1 AGF. So AGFs provide mentoring throughout the program from the beginning to the end. So we have very strong support for our PhD students, and we plan to use that system for our residential students as well, starting in fall 2022 next year, so that everybody can get the same kind of support. And as Dr. Bonk mentioned, we are in College of Information. Initially, we were in College of Education, but the department left the education about 10 years ago. Is that right, Lin?
2007. So I came in 2006, and I was only at College of Education for 1 semester, and then we moved. Nothing to do with me. they were already making the plan, but we moved to College of Information in 2008.
Okay. So more than 10 years, right? No. Yes, I'm
yeah, more than 10 years.
Yeah. So it's very interdisciplinary department, as I mentioned earlier, and we have strong faculty members with very diverse expertise and very interesting department.
3 questions I have. Maybe the audience has questions, but number 1, I've heard that enrollments in most places have gone up. Some places have gone down. In the past, are your enrollments going up over the last 1-2 years?
The enrollment for PhD is good all the time, always. we have more students than, I mean, what we can manage sometimes. So PhD is very strong and healthy, but master's enrollment is kind of going a little bit down. So we are focusing on marketing and recruitment these days. And BAS program is quite new. It's quite, I mean, it's about 2 years old or 3 years old, and but it's slowly growing. Still very small, but it's growing.
So there aren't many bachelor's programs in this field, but it's increasing. The jobs that are available are increasing across the board. And that means that there's going to be a push down a bit in terms of offering certificates and offering undergraduate degrees, because the jobs will exist for people that come out with just a certificate or come out with an undergraduate degree. You don't need a master's, don't need a doctorate. And that's not to say a master's or a doctorate isn't important. It is. There are just more opportunities today than there were when I started, or when Dr. Ann or Dr. Lin started. And so you have 2 PhDs. You have an online one and a face-to-face one, or distributed one and a face-to-face. We have a PhD at Indiana and an EDD. The EDD is online, and those programs are growing. Some of you are in the EDD program. You've raised your hands. That's growing. Masters online, we've had for 20, almost 25 years. That's stable. It's the master's face-to-face that has gone down. I'm assuming it's the same with you. You have a face-to-face master's and a face-to-face online master's?
No, actually, it's the 100% online.
Oh, your master's is. You don't have any face-to-face master's students anymore?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a studio master's with a few students face-to-face, but not a lot. Are there any required courses in either your master's or your PhD programs? And what are the required courses?
Lin, can you?
What are your required courses?
We have a bunch of required courses, but Lin should be more familiar with those courses, right?
Should I? Okay. I think we have 5 required. Like I'm teaching one of the first required courses, which is Philosophy of Learning Technologies. And we have, I think, 2 to 3 required research methodology courses. One just basic, one advanced, either qualitative or quantitative. And under Dr. Ang's leadership, we are increasing more research methodology courses. I think besides research methodology courses, we also have 5 other required courses. One is the one I'm teaching. Another is instructional design. I think another is in message design, and then there's advanced instructional design, I think. Yeah.
It's hard to memorize those courses. We have degree plan, and it shows the required courses and optional courses. And
Right.
Well, as someone with the book, The World is Open, I don't believe in required courses at all. They've decreased over time, but there's not a lot of overlap between your required courses and our required, except for instructional design. Of course, there's research methods. Of course, they're going to be required for doctoral, but for master's students, do you have any the same kind of required courses, or?
I believe so. I think we have, sorry, I have to check.
So the struggle is a lot of times faculty and students would prefer not to have required courses, then there would be more freedom. But in order administratively, Dr. Ang would know better, in order to make all the courses and then they have to require. So I think we actually are having more, if not more, but at least equivalent number of required courses. And also the cohort system, we are asking, all the students are pretty much taking the same courses. And for the master's degree, because it's also online, so just I guess administratively, maybe it's easier that way. So the courses, the number of courses actually is reducing so that they can all make. Some people make the argument that the students should have similar experiences or similar capacity when they graduate from the program. I don't know if I buy that, but yeah, so there are definitely struggles there.
Okay, final questions from anyone? Comments? Follow-ups? Requests? Suggestions? I think we're going to have to take another couple-minute break, and we'll do a wrap-up after we say thank you to Dr. Yunjo and thank you to Dr. Lin Lin. So in the chat window, if you could put 3 words for today's session with them, like that was great, I am sleepy, whatever you want to know. Hopefully you're not sleepy. So, you know, I'll write you an email. So just put in the chat window 3 words from today. So Sarah starts us off. You're both inspiring people. I think they're good role models, especially for young females in our field who are just starting off their first class and wanting to set their sights. 5 years down the road and where they'll want to be. You now have 2 people to contact for advice, for suggestions, who are at the mid career. Dr. Ann is not a full professor yet. I put full professor. I gave her a promotion in my email. So she's still associate professor, but she hopes to be a full professor soon. So thank you, Susanna. Immensely enjoyable. Thanks. So that's 3 good words. So in the chat window, if you want to put something in, Dr. Ann or Dr. Lin, final word from you before we go to break.
It was very nice meeting you, and I really enjoyed this time with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The same. Really enjoy meeting you. And Dr. Ang, you never know, in a few months, right? She will be full professor. So just a few months earlier.
Is your paperwork going in?
So I submitted my dossier and it's in the process right now, but let's see what happens.
And she visits Bloomington once in a while. Her mother was living here. I don't think her mother is here anymore, but maybe
you're right here now.
Yeah. So she comes once in a while. We can go to lunch, but you'll meet both Dr. Lin and Dr. Ann if you go to ACT in Chicago. Maybe you're going to Chicago, either one of you?
This time virtually.
Virtually, Dr. Lin?
Virtually.
Okay, I'll be there face to face if you go to ACT. So I've got my hotel room already. So, and next year, I think it's in Las Vegas. And finally, Dr. Lin, ETR&D, she's the editor of ETR&D. You want to say something quick about ETR&D?
Sure. ETR&D is one of the journals in the field, and we actually just got our impact factor to be 5 points, which is pretty good.
Wow.
Most education journals have impact factor of 1 or 2, right? So it's one of the top journals in the field. And so if you want to know more about ETR&D, just send me email. We publish really everything. It's not specific about specific population. It can be and Dr. Bonk had a special issue last year with ETR&D, and thank you so much for doing that. And we are definitely getting a lot of manuscripts, and it is one of important. I'm very proud of being able to serve as editor for the development section. Tristan Johnson is for the research section.
If you come to ACT in Chicago, I will give you a signed copy of this special issue on meta-analyses that Dr. Lin convinced me by twisting, but she convinced me I should do this. And so she's got the last article in here with Dr. Reeves about summarizing this whole special issue. So she's got a chapter in here, or a piece in here, and it's a thick one. It's a thick special issue. So yeah, I'm bringing I bought 100 copies, so I will bring a whole box. If anyone comes to Chicago, you will get a free copy of that. So yeah, I'm glad we mentioned that. You should definitely, and we got some articles that are free online from this issue too. So thanks again for thank you both for coming in, for being our first guests. You are starting off the fall 2021 semester, not just for this class, not just for the School of Ed, but for the entire campus, because this class is being taught before the semester starts 2 days early. So this is the first class for all of IU. So you are the guests for the first class for all of IU.
I'd be very honored.
Thank you. Very honored. Thank
Stop
you.
the recording as soon as I can here. So everyone raise their hands and go, hi, bye. Everyone raise. Okay, we'll stop the recording.